Hi, everybody. We're back. This week we have Darwin with X Agency, and Nicole and I both met Darwin while filming the greatest entrepreneurship show that exists, right? The Blox. You've heard us talk about it before. So he was actually one of the coaches. So we're expecting big things from you, Darwin.
I'll try.
Okay. So Darwin, tell us a little bit about you and how you got your start, and tell us about your business.
Yeah, so my name is Darwin Liu. I a little bit about so I've been doing marketing since 2008. X Agency is a full service digital marketing agency. We provide, basically any sort of marketing service you can think of, primarily focused on e-commerce. With that said, though, digital marketing is digital marketing. 80% of it really is almost all the same. But yeah, our primary clients are a Midterprise level. And my definition of Midterprise is anywhere from, say, 2 million to 300 million in revenue per year. And yeah, I met these two amazing ladies at the Blox, and it was a fun and amazing experience. So can't wait to do this interview.
Thanks, Darwin. So tell us about how you got your start, because I'm assuming you didn't just start out with $2 million+ earner and clients.
Yeah. So in 2008, I graduated college not knowing what to do with my life. And, I Googled how to get rich online. And the first thing was my marketing. So
I'm loving the honesty.
Right.
How you got into this?
Yeah. And you know what? I started out selling skins, right? Free fat loss, free teeth whitening, free iPads. When in reality, it wasn't free. It's affiliate marketing back in 2008 was more of a wild, wild west. Google and Facebook didn't have their stuff together, right? Can I swear, by the way?
Yeah.
They didn't have this shit together. So we were able to do anything that we wanted, and we weren't penalized for it. Nowadays, the regulations are way harder. You can't do stuff that I did, but I would tell people rebills. I tell them they get free teeth whitening, but the disclaimer was, you get rebilled $80 a month or something. And long story short, people got scammed. However, with that said, it didn't last long. I had some wins, I had some losses. Ended up owing 30 grand on my credit card. Had to get a job at an agency. At the agency, though, it wasn't the end for me. It was more like a means to an end. So at the agency, I worked my way up. I built my contacts with the goal of always leaving. So with that said, in my head, at the end of it, I knew that I was going to leave. So I planned for that exit. I made my contacts when I left. I had a lot of good contacts actually come with me right on board with me the first year. So I was able to skip all the small client phase and jump my Midterprise.
And what year did you start that?
X Agency was 2017. I graduated in 2008. And during that process, there was a lot of learning. So maybe 1 to 2 years of learning and really a couple more years of failing. I started working in 2012. So 4 years of affiliate Black Hat marketing, 5 years of agency, and then, X Agency started in the middle of 2017.
And what was the thing in 2017 that made you realize, like, all right, I'm ready to go out on my own? And like, did you like set up anything to do that besides obviously taking the contacts, which genius, by the way, but besides that, like, did you like set anything up? Like you were like, okay, I'm in a good spot to go, or did you just make the leap? Like, how did you make that decision?
Well, it's funny because, and we'll backtrack again. In 2008, when I was doing this, right, my parents and everyone around me was just like, what are you doing with your life? Why are you in your basement with all the dark with the lights off? And what really are you doing? And everyone was just like, get a job. This is the dumbest thing you can ever think of. And it was always like, get a job. And I didn't listen to them. And I did my thing. And then when I actually failed and had to work at an agency, they were like, I told you so. Okay. So now back to 2017, I was doing really well. My company that I was working with was paying me 6 figures. They were paying me not to leave, quarterly bonuses. I had my own side clients. So by that point, I was making 300, 400 grand a year. And technically speaking, that's not the best time to leave. Everyone was saying, why are you leaving? They were asking me, you're doing so well right now. Why would you actually leave and not pay yourself a single thing? They were just like, this is freaking crazy. But for me, it was like, I'm getting a little bit too comfortable. Things are going well. And if I just stay in stay doing this, this is as far as I can go. So for me, it was like, all right, time to really just get back into being uncomfortable, because I think for me, I've always chased being uncomfortable, right? So yeah, at that point when I left, right in the beginning, I hired 2 employees and I wasn't paying myself a single thing. Went to get office, went to get all these equipment. I was putting a lot of money down with, I had a home mortgage. But for me, it was, the comfortability was the best time to leave, because I knew that I was going in the right direction. I knew that I needed to do something to change. Otherwise, I'm gonna stay doing this for the rest of my life.
So did you have like money like put aside, like you knew this was coming, so you like had like a goose, or not a goose egg?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I guess if you want to talk about that.
Nest egg. There we go.
Yes.
The
I
egg.
had, I planned it out where I had enough saved up at least for a year worth of mortgage. I had enough to plan and saved out so that I had enough to pay my employees and also to do some sales. So yeah, it was all planned out before I left.
That's
So
super
what's the size now of your company? So do you have partners? How many employees do you have? Like, how much has it grown since 2017?
Yeah, so we're at 20 something employees. We have 2 offices, one in Boston, one in Nashville. We just got to Inc. 5000. We're growing super duper fast. In terms of partners, right? I've given out percentages of my company to some key folks. Some people who were with me since the beginning, some people who, who joined on board, who've been doing really well. So I have some small equity partners on top of, equity. The whole plan of this whole thing is to sell. When I do sell, there are some other folks in there who will get part of the percentage of the sale.
How did you make that? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
How did you make the decision of like who you were going to give a part of your company to?
Honestly, it was just, I was going through some rough patches, during this whole process, right? I think everyone thinks starting a company is smooth sailing, but there's always the ups, there's the downs, and then when the downs are coming, the people who actually stayed and sticked around are the ones who I really, who I felt that deserved this. There were people who left when things were not going great, right? Because when you first start out, you're not a full-fledged company. You don't have systems and processes in place. You losing one client is scary as hell. So, and when that happens, some people just left. The others who actually stayed through and actually fought through this with me were the ones who really deserved it. So they were the ones who got it. It was based off of loyalty.
Awesome. So you touched on this a little bit, but what are long-term goals for the company? You had mentioned ultimately selling, and I know you don't want to get into too much detail on that, I'm sure, but do you have a timeline in mind or a number in mind? What does that look like? And then, to quote you from earlier, you're getting comfortable, you got to chase something new. What's next?
That's the funny thing, right? So there's a big difference between being a CEO and an entrepreneur. Being a CEO it's the boring stuff. So we're growing the company, right? We're putting into place systems and processes. It's sales. And I always tell the team, when you get the company so smooth sailing and so systemized that it's super boring, then you have a properly running business machine. But the flip side of that is it's super boring. So at least for me right now, right? 1, I am comfortable. 2, the goal for this really is to sell it at 50 million in revenue, because in our industry, we don't get 4, 5, 6 times EBITDA, whatever. It's what we get when we sell a company is way less than say if you sold. They get like 20x of whatever the hell we get. So for me, it's really all right. The timeline really is 4 to 5 years total. So we have about another 3 years before we actually really pull the trigger on the sale. And let's just see right where there for the numbers. But hopefully, I'm hoping to get maybe about 50 million. That's sort of the goal. And yeah, I am comfortable. So, this does get boring. And what is next, right? And as an entrepreneur, you kind of always you love starting new stuff, but running something isn't that fun. So we have American Bully. It's a doggy clothing site. We sell doggy clothing. On top of really just getting into the commercial real estate space. We're buying up some properties. We're really just expanding, different businesses really.
Awesome.
Right now.
So y'all are growing a portfolio like a horizontal versus vertical. Like y'all are trying to like branch out of just doing the marketing. Like you're
Correct.
for like the doggy clothing. Like is that people that are coming from the marketing agency, or is that like other partners? Like is that like I know you're married? Is that like your wife runs that? Was I right on that? No.
Oh, no, but you're right. You're right. I mean,
I was like, I swear that we talked about that.
I would never work with my wife, but
so with that, like, how did that come about? Like, I mean, so you're not just like a single entrepreneur, you're a serial entrepreneur
yeah.
that is in like multiple companies. So like with the doggy clothing, like how did that come about?
Yep. So the doggy clothing thing, and I think if you know, as an entrepreneur, you are always thinking of new ideas and things you want to do, right? The doggy clothing company came about when I was really just Googling these kinds of dogs. I wanted one. It's American Bully, 2014. Just kind of fell on my lap, and I just started doing some research, and there were more searches for that type of dog than there were for knives online. So with that said, I was like, all right, you know what? Let's try to do something with it. We bought the domain name for it was like $12,000. We were able to luckily get the trademark. Luckily, so we own the whole rights of that line of dog. And then when I think I started this maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and clearly I couldn't do it.
I'm gonna have to pause you. Okay, you own the rights to a dog, like a whole dog.
The whole line, the breed, the breed.
Okay.
So we own that, and we got lucky that the trademark lapsed. We were like, all right, let's scoop this up right away. So we own that. It's kind of like owning golden retriever. Like it's a huge breed that the dog owners own. These dogs go for 5,000 to 60 grand a piece for one dog. My dog was like bottom of the litter, and it was like $5. So these owners have money, and I was like, all right, there's this huge opportunity. So as of now, I have brought in 2 partners to actually help me run that thing. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, I hear all these complaints from my other business owner friends who are saying, you know, this guy doesn't work as hard as me, or that guy doesn't work as hard as me. Well, clearly they're just employees. They're not partners, right? They're not going to have enough invested in this as much as you do. So for me, it was all right. If I want to be able to start all these things and be able to float around, I need people who are actually going to care about it. So the best way to do that was to give them a perspective.
Awesome. I'm so sorry.
I mean, Darwin, I'm just like, I'm like, it's like every time I talk to you, I just get like more like, what than I did the time before. I just learned more and more about you.
You're like, what is wrong with this guy? I thought he was just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's making sense now. You know?
Yeah. It's all coming together. That's awesome. So what does your schedule look like? You said you had Boston and Nashville offices for the X marketing agency. You have or X agency. You have the puppy clothing line. What does the schedule look like for you?
Yeah, the schedule kind of sucks. I mean, a typical schedule, I show you my Fitbit, but I don't sleep much, right? So during the normal workday, I mean, I have meetings probably all the way from 9 till 6 p.m. I don't get to do a single thing.
Now, are those mostly virtual meetings or they're in-person meetings?
Yeah, everything's virtual now.
Okay.
Back in the day, I used to have to fly to a lot of places, but I'm glad that I don't now. Everything right now is virtual. 9 to 5, usually meetings every single freaking day. Then I go to the gym and I'll come back for like my second work day, however you want to call it. I'm leaving at maybe somewhere around 2 to 3. Yeah, so basically a full work day. I really don't get to sit down much at all.
Wow. So how do you, and you have a newborn, right? You have a baby at home. So like, how are you managing like work-life balance, or is there a work-life balance?
There isn't really. However, you know, what I try to do is not necessarily about all the time you have to spend with them, but more like the quality, right? If you kind of want to see my schedule, I might get to work maybe around 10 a.m. ish nowadays. And then I'll work till somewhere around 5 or 6 p.m. All meetings, I don't get much done. I'll go home for an hour to hang out with my kid before he sleeps. And then I'll go work out, then I'll go back to work. So in that 1 hour though, I am hanging out with him. I am actually just really spending my time with him.
So you're present in the time
I'm
there. You're not like working while you're with your.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I get that 1 hour. Other than that, I mean, it's enough, I would say. But when I was starting X Agency, though, my kid was in the NICU, which was the NICU. He was there for I think 9 months, right? And
Was he a preemie?
He's a preemie, yeah. I had to run back and forth over and over, and I was getting crap from my wife of my clients saying, "Hey, where are you?" And it was just like it was.
Darwin, if I was your wife, I'd be giving you crap as well. You know?
But yeah, she was getting
Being honest here.
a lot of crap, and I think during that time I was working like 36 hours straight and like sleeping 6 hours, and working 36 hours, and sleeping 6 hours. It's hard, but like now we're getting into like a better spot, so I don't have to do the crazy stuff like that.
So that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned earlier reaching a point where you had $30,000 on a credit card when you were trying to get everything up and going. Talk to us about that. Like, were there moments where you wanted to cut bait and go? Were there, what was that uncertainty like, and how did you get past it, I guess?
Yeah, so I would say that, and even when as you guys are doing businesses, you're telling your friends, and your friends are, some of them are on your side, other ones are skeptical, right? So the quitting, when you're thinking about the quitting, I mean, I think it's the ego where you're sitting there saying, if I quit, I'm going to get crapped on by everyone who I told I was going to be successful with, right? I mean, yeah, as you all know, when you're starting this out and there's no one who really understands what you're going through, it's hard. You don't want to quit and you are depressed, right? But I never, the only reason why I was, I actually quit and got a job wasn't necessarily because of what everyone else said or anything like that. It was just because I couldn't scam anymore. I could not literally just pay my next bill. I got to the point where I was going to the bank and I would deposit like a blank check, and I'd say like there was $3,000 in it, and then have me able to draw like maybe 20% of it, and I go negative, right? So by that point, it was to the point where I literally just could not pay my bills, and I was overdue for like 2 of the payments. I was like, all right, you know what? I have to get a job now. And that's the only reason why I got the job. During that whole process, no, it didn't matter how much I owed or what people were saying, I was still going to keep doing it until I could figure out a way. Yeah.
Darwin, like you said, you have meetings all day, every day, right? With different, I guess, prospective customers or clients. So like, what do those meetings, I mean, obviously don't like give us like a full rundown, but like, what do those meetings entail? Like if people wanted to reach out to you now and they're like, hey, we're at this point in our business, but we want to take it to the next level, we need Darwin. So what would that consist of?
Yeah, so a couple of things, right? To answer your first question, what do those meetings consist of? So right now, I'd say 70% of those meetings, 40% of those meetings are still me working in the business. So I'm still the tech person here, meaning there are a lot of things that people still can't understand just because they work in different departments. So I'm like the middleman go-to person. And technically speaking, as someone who runs a company, as a CEO, you shouldn't be doing that. However, I'm still stuck with this time that I'm kind of, if you want to call wasting, because we can't find someone to do it. The other 30 to 40% are sort of internal meetings where I'm meeting with the high level folks and we're just making decisions and going through stuff. Then there's really another 30% that I'm doing outside or sales that actually helps grow the company. So about 30% of those meetings are actually me working on the company instead of me working. I already know that, at least from my trajectory, to be more successful with X Agency itself, I need to switch those numbers, right? I actually need to be 60, 70% working on the company. I need to be able to take myself out of all these tech calls. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but that's sort of, where a CEO should be. I think I've seen a lot of times, even upstairs, right? There's a web design company upstairs. He's been doing this for 10 years and he's just like, and he has 7 employees and he was asking me, oh, how'd you guys grow so fast? And I was like, well, what are you doing? And he's still doing a lot of the web design. He's still doing a lot of the in busy work, which is great and all. I do like doing that stuff sometimes because it's fun. But if you're trying to grow the company, it's a totally different skill set. It's totally different trajectory that you should be taking. But yeah, usually when people try to come, if I just met someone, they wanted help. Normally nowadays, I don't have time anymore. So it's always like, well, you're not big enough.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal, Darwin.
Yeah.
But say they were big enough, let's just talk hypotheticals. Like,
Yeah, if they were big enough, I mean, I do go through this site. I do give them recommendations. I give a lot of value before we actually ask for a contract. There's a lot of, I'm a Me Too company. I'm not a freaking Uber or Lyft or whatever you want to call it. There's 10,000 agencies out there. I don't even know the number. Just throwing a random one out. It's really, how do we separate ourselves from the rest when we're not the big boys yet? No one knows us, but there's a couple of big agencies out here, and we are nowhere near that. So it was my thought process for this was always, how do we separate ourselves from the rest? One thing was, if you ever went on our site, we're invite only, we're e-commerce based, right? And it really, it was to separate ourselves. How do we look different, or who gets paid more, pediatricians or brain surgeons? So I put e-commerce. Technically, we do marketing for nonprofits, B2B, we do marketing for a lot of things, but it was, how do we look different? Invite only, I made ourselves seem more prestigious, right? Where people actually hit us up and we'll say yes or no and stuff. And then really just to finally answer your question, and the next thing was providing value. We give a lot of value up front. Well, we do a lot of things that other companies would charge 10K for that we don't charge a single thing for. And eventually they do sign up. Our goal is to, as we get bigger and more recognized, we don't have to be doing these things for free, but there's always tiers that you have to handle. Right now we're offering the free stuff. We're at this mid-level tier pricing. Eventually we'll move up the higher tier level pricing as our monthly recurring revenue grows. We can give less freebies. We can do less. People will actually recognize us more, but we're getting to that point. We're just not there yet.
so I wanted to hit on something you talked about just a minute ago too. So you talked about how like you need to get more working on the company instead of in the company. So like obviously the goal as an entrepreneur is to fill your role in the companies, like to hire someone to take your spot, which as an entrepreneur is probably the hardest part because no one can do it like you. I mean, let's just be real. Like you're the one that has the vision, you have the heart. You have to find someone that believes in it as much as you do, which is really hard to do. So for you, if you find that person, it kind of sounds like you're like, okay, well, once I find that person, I'm out. Like, because you said you'd be bored. So then, I mean, so then what? Like, then what comes next, I guess, is the question. Like, if you find that person to take your role and you are bored, then you're going to sell.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically, and let me kind of explain. I think we use the word CEO and entrepreneur interchangeably when they're two totally different things, right? And for our job, even say as a CEO, is to make decisions. It's not to actually come in and do the website, do the web development, do all that stuff. So for me, it was finding someone I found a CEO who can actually run the company for me. I don't have to handle, and when I found her and when she sort of joined on board, it was like, all right, do I want to pay her zero profit for the year, or do I want to have some profit and pay someone to run the company? And I think it was the best decision of my life to actually find her because she was able to focus on really people stuff, all the, all the HR stuff, all the payments and sort of the systemizing and things like that. So I can actually focus on the ideas and help us grow in the company. I was never able to do that when I'm actually in the weeds doing every single thing, whether it's the tech stuff or doing the marketing stuff or payroll and all that stuff. You just don't have the time for it. And if you're going to keep doing that, if it's real estate and you're the ones who's going on doing all the sales, you're the ones who are working on the website, you really can't implement the systems and processes to grow, So yeah, so the job, at least, and the difference between an entrepreneur and a CEO is an entrepreneur is still crazy. He's throwing ideas and he's hoping it sticks and he's hoping it sticks. But as you get bigger, you can't really do that anymore. As you get more, employees, as you get more clients, it has to be a nice slow roll. You can't just throw stuff hoping it works. You're gonna, one, make the employees crazy, and two, the clients don't know what's going on. So switching to the CEO hat, it's always like, all right, slowing it down, getting the systems in place so people can be more efficient, getting more services out there, getting your name more well known. And that's sort of where I'm moving into, which is this CEO hat. And is it boring? Yeah, I would say it is, which is why I kind of started these other companies to kind of make it a little bit more fun,
So for your CEO, like, how did you find her? Like, how did you find someone that believed in what you were doing the same way you believe in what you're doing?
Oh, she just found my lab, to be honest. She was a client. and she was the e-com director of one of our clients, and we did so well for them that she was just like, hey, I want to learn what you guys are doing, and she just came on board. So after that, she was really, really into it, and really she was very hungry for knowledge. And just from seeing that and the work she was putting in, yeah, I was just like, hey, here's X% of the company. Do you want to like? And she was just really happy about it. I mean, she works just like, and she does own the company, right? So she works like she's really part of the company.
Very cool. Darwin, what does marketing for growth look like for you as a marketing agency? So do you run ads? Do you go to networking groups? Are you door knocking, cold calling? What does that look like to get these big ticket clients?
Yeah, so we're doing this in a couple of the most important thing, to a company or the lifeblood isn't really your service itself. You can have a crappy or shitty service or a product, but if you get more sales through the door, none of that matters, right? So we have a great service right now, which is we do amazing work. And however, I'm telling my team not to hang our hats up. If you kind of look at the GoDaddy constant contact model, they just cold call you all the way through and just get these sales. And even if they have a subpar product, but they get more sales than they get clients to leave. So for us, it's really, all right, when I was doing this, how do we increase our sales pipelines so we can have more sales? One of the big sources are partnerships. So we partner with a lot of CMO networks, fractional CMO networks. We try to partner with web design, PR, web dev firms. And what we do is, even when I first started, said, hey, we'll give you 10% of whatever we make for the first year. So at least in this way, I mean, there's so many people asking for things. How do you actually get a partner to actually partner with you, right? Besides the good work, it was 10%. And just because of that, we're getting a lot of good warm leads that come through versus having to cold call. However, we do actually have that cold calling process. We paid an outside agency to come in and work on our entire sales process. I think it was maybe 80 or 90 grand, and they're helping us build a cold call sales process right now, where they bring in the people, they help us set up all the salary requirements, help us help the folks, and really help us build that cold call funnel process. We also use a company for the cold call process, where they go on LinkedIn and they kind of scrape whoever our core target is, and we tell them what that core is, whether it is CMO, C-level plus execs in companies with 50 plus employees. I don't know what the exact criteria is, but they'll scrape it, and then they'll automatically reach out. And then our sales folks that are built from the sales process are going to go answer them for the first process, and then just go through. And as they get down the line, we actually answer for the final sale, if that makes sense. We're also working on email marketing, blogging, and things like that. But for us, it's really, we're trying to increase our sales channels.
So as you talk about that, like, so obviously LinkedIn, you said LinkedIn, but what is the other funnel in regards to like getting these people's information for you to be able to reach out and cold call or email or whatever you're doing to touch them? Like, what's the funnel that you're using to get that?
Oh, as in, did you want to know the name of the company that we use for?
No. I'm just saying, like, so like besides LinkedIn, like you have LinkedIn, you can obviously grab their information from LinkedIn. I know there's things like Zoom info and stuff like that where you can literally go through and scrape companies and like it'll tell you how many they have, who's the runner, who you need to reach out to in regards to what you're looking to do. So do you use like Zoom info, like that kind of stuff in regards to like finding these people? How do you get their information to put them in your lead funnel?
We do. So Zoom info is one of them. We have another one called it's the other big one. I just forgot what it's called, but it starts with S something. If I find out, I'll email that to you. Okay. Another thing that we do is just, you kind of want to be creative, right? You can use the public pieces, which works, or you can try to figure out how do I do something different compared to the rest. So that's something that, before we jump into what we do, that's a philosophy that I do like to take within the company and say in personal life. We can't have crazy results if we just follow what's out in the webosphere, however you want to call it. You can have good results if you follow the best practices, but are they going to be crazy? No. So even here, when a tip for you would be, we use something called Phantom Buster, and this is what we did in the past. There's Slack channels for the public for, say, anyone who uses a platform, Klaviyo. There's about 4,000 plus people in there. It's public, you join it. I use a tool called Phantom Buster. You can scrape everyone's name, phone number, and contact information from this one channel, and it will dump it. That's one example. Is that white hat? No, that's gray hat. We would join these Zoom calls with a bunch of folks where it's like Klaviyo is presenting. Klaviyo is an email platform, by the way, or Magento's presenting. Same thing, just scrape their names and start reaching out. So those are some sort of nuggets that we'll use. So minus the public stuff, you always do want to think about different ways that you can reach out to folks that other people are. Well, in the beginning, we would go to marketing conferences where there's 100 different agencies. It's pretty pointless. So now we're looking at, parallel industries where it's like, okay, let's go to a makeup one where they're selling stuff, but it's just for makeup. But we're going there, not as for makeup or not for anything else, more just to, talk about what we do for marketing. If that makes sense.
That's awesome. Do you have any recommendations for marketing strategy for new entrepreneurs at a smaller business level? And I know it would vary based on the industry. So it's really general question, but any, I guess that general advice for a marketing strategy for a new startup, maybe even a brick and mortar. What does that look like to you?
I'm gonna take both of y'all for an example.
What?
So let's talk about local. Cool. Local's brick and mortar. It's in Clay, there's you hit the nail right on the head out here. There's a bunch of different industries, right? But for local, I think a lot of folks understand of the free programs you can take advantage of, which most people aren't taking advantage of. Make sure you set up your Google My Business. Make sure you set up your Bing My Business, all right? To rank higher on Google for local isn't super hard, right? If you want to picture it, especially for brick and mortar sales, reviews or social proof is still super important. So what I would do is to rank higher in Google, one, flush out your Google My Business profile, put in everything you can, whether it's women-led or veteran-led or whatever it is, take advantage of that stuff. Get your reviews going. Your first thing really is to systemize your review process. So as people come in, make sure you have a process for reviews for every single customer, whether it is your employees telling them what to do, whatever it is. Let them finish your review, because why? Not only does that boost your rankings in Google, but you look better at Google. You get about 20 to 30 Yelp reviews. After that, Yelp's pretty pointless. It's great for people who actually wanted to read the reviews. People normally don't read the Google reviews. So the two differences is, all right, get about 30 plus Yelp reviews and then really just flush out your Google reviews. If you can get that, you'll rank higher on top of getting more traffic. Other than that, other free things are just make sure if you're doing services, Facebook, change your template to services so that you guys can promote your services. And then NAP. So NAP is your name, address, place. That's if you want to picture what that is. The way Google, Facebook, Bing works is it's based on an algorithm. Addresses are part of what it is. So if you wrote your address wrong, 123 Main Street is ST is different than 123 Main ST period, 123 Main Street STRET. And Google can't put everything together to actually say, all right, all the links are pointing to this one location, but it's all spread apart. A NAP cleanup. So a NAP cleanup you can pay on Yelp, Yext, or Bright Local. It's like $2 per listing. It usually ends up being $350 to $400 or something like that. It's a one-time fee. When you do that, they go into every single listings, whether it's Apple Maps, Facebook, Yahoo, blah, blah, blah. And they'll clean it up to whatever you specify. So now you have one address for every single link, juice, everything, social signal coming in is hitting that one address. So now you'll rank higher in almost every single platform. So that's something that I would always recommend. It's a one-time. Other than that, I mean, just all you have is your sweat equity. So put your time into really just working on the business, whether it's word of mouth, going to, partnerships are sort of the biggest thing that I would always recommend. Even when I started out, was partnerships, right? If all you have is 24 hours in a day, you can only spend 2 hours doing sales. Is it better to sell a client or is it better to sell a partner? If you can sell a partner, it's a constant lead coming. Hey, it could be one a year, but if you have 100 of these partners, that one a year really does it. So just start doing. Partnerships are huge, and partnerships would be If you do real estate, you would go to, brokers and really just do partnerships. And I don't know how the finance things works in real estate, just because I don't know if you can give incentives or whatever, right? It's a different industry. Yeah. So it could be something else. It could be just showing your face. It could just be saying hi. It could be whatever. So it's going to parallel industries that'll be mutually beneficial. And maybe they can push something to you, you can push something to them. But if you do that, like it's a constant stream, and just follow up with them over and over here and there, right? That's I think for me, that's always been the best source of business, which is building these good referrals.
So like, I feel like you hit on something that like, there's always mixed reviews on, and that's like the networking aspect of everything. Like, I feel like some people think that networking is like a waste of time. Other people think that if they don't network, they're going to go nowhere but their basement. So like, what are your thoughts? You're saying like, just don't network to your people, or like network to like side ventures instead of like, so like for marketing or like selfie studios, like in that instance, like she just wouldn't go to like, I don't even know if there is a selfie studio networking market thing, but like if there was, like she wouldn't go to that. She would go to like mom groups, to where she's like going out, branching out to them, or like Greek life. Like she would do like something that parallels with it, not.
Yes, exactly. And I can't think, just because it's such a different or different industry, and I've never been at a selfie studio, but yes, exactly. She will go to maybe some sort of, kids fun events thing where people are talking about whatever else they do with college graduations and all that stuff. And you would go and try to, push each other. So I can't think of exactly what you would do, Andrea, at this point, but yes, exactly.
Well, actually, Darwin, when we were still filming at the Blox, you gave me a recommendation that was kind of one of those like stupid aha moments. Why didn't I think of this? You were like, you should be going and talking to social media marketing agencies, your local ones, your small ones that build websites and do social media, and offering up the space. Let them come in and see the space and see how they could use it for their clients. And I do a little bit of social media marketing. I have clients, a handful, not a lot, but I never thought to do that because they're my competitor, right? I thought of them as my competitor, but he suggested that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so smart. I literally built this studio because I didn't have a place to go for my clients. So if I can offer that to other people, of course, they're going to come in and use it,
Yeah. Yeah. And you just sometimes sit down and just think, and I think just sit in the quiet spot and think about what else you can do with your existing infrastructure. And if there are things you can do, really just take advantage of it. And I say that always read what everyone else is doing out there. So you might be reading, hey, where are real estate folks getting clients? Where are selfie studios getting clients? But just take that and really try to figure, all right, if this is what everyone else is doing, great, I can do this, but what else can I do that's different? Because the difference is really what's gonna, that outside of the box piece is really what's gonna help you grow exponentially, versus what everyone else is doing is gonna have you grow sort of standard trajectory.
Cool. So marketing aside, Darwin, leave the marketing piece out of it. Our ultimate question we ask everybody, so we need your answer to it, is what is one piece of advice you would give to future entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are just getting started? What's the one piece?
As someone that's like been in one venture, went out, got the job, came back to entrepreneurship, like what's the one piece of advice that you have for those that are like in your shoes or starting out, like, 2008 Darwin? Like, what is the advice you have for the 2008 Darwins out there?
I'd say that entrepreneurship is a journey. It's not a destination. The people who started, went back to the job and came back, this is the journey. This is literally what everyone does, and everyone thinks like getting rich or being successful, whatever your end goal is the goal. The goal isn't to reach a destination. The goal is to hop on the journey and never hop off. Because if you do, again, I think as entrepreneurs, we grow so much exponentially compared to just the normal, I guess, person, if you want to call it. And it's through this growth that the success comes, right? I can lose everything right now, and I can easily say that I have the network built up that I can make $1 million in 6 months, just because of everything that I've learned through this journey and all the people I've met. So that's sort of what I'm telling everyone, which is just because you failed, it's part of the process. You're not a failure. Failing is part of this process. So pick yourself back up and keep going, keep going. I think people quit right before they're about to hit the jackpot. What we do here isn't linear. It's not a job where you got to focus on things every single year. You can be flatlined for a freaking 10 years, and in 1 year you can, exponentially grow to $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. So that's where they need to get. If they stay on this journey, they're not going to fall off. They can hit that point, but if they do fall off, like the majority of folks, then they lose. So just stay on the journey.
Well,
Awesome.
Darwin, thank you so much. Obviously, based on your interview, you're an extremely busy man. Very hard to get in touch with, and
Yes.
it was an honor for Andrea and I to get to interview you. It was an honor getting to know you on the Blox. You are an amazing person. Hopefully we get to see you again soon. But thank you so much for taking the time to be on here with us today.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks for inviting me. I'm so sorry for being late.
Oh gosh, don't be. Hey Darwin, really quick, just in case people don't read the show notes or they don't read the little description under the video, where can we learn more about you and your businesses online?
Xagency.com, AmericanBully.com. They can hit me up at Darwin@xagency.com. I'll try to answer as fast as I can, but that might not, always be the case. Just always reach out a couple of times and I'll try to answer whatever I can.
Thank you so much, Darwin.
Thank you, ladies.
Uh-oh.
Hey.